ask. All right, we are Facebook Live at Paso Robles Army Recruiting Center Facebook page. If you have questions, you can go to their page and ask your questions. This is the page that I'm going to be reading off comments and asking our guest speaker. So if you guys leave other comments, devices on these two social media sites, I will get back to you later and answer those questions. Okay? So again, we're just waiting for our guest speaker to join. Let me try. Okay, stand by. I'm going to have to switch this. This is my main phone that I'm contacting my guest speaker on. So if you're on this Instagram account, switch over to the Paso Robles Army Recruiting Instagram page, and we'll try to hit that one too. All right, give me a second. You guys can see all of our logistics and our new 21st century. I'm broadcasting live from California. Let's see. Here we go. Let's see, Instagram. Are we live, Instagram? All right, cool. We are live, Instagram. All right, adding our guest speaker. Check. Can you hear me? I do not have volume on you. Okay, mute. Unmute. All right, nope, still no volume. I can see you just fine, no volume. Nope, not yet. Pop off and then try logging back in if you can. Must be all that humidity down in Fort Polk, Louisiana. All right. Add to stream. Yep. Welcome. We are currently Facebook Live, not only on the Paso Robles Facebook page for Army Recruiting in California, we are also Facebook Live on Staff Sergeant Anderson's Facebook account and Instagram Live on Staff Sergeant Anderson's account. Today, we have our guest speaker. Now, please don't kill me if I have a rough time pronouncing your last name. We have Captain Dondoyano.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to shorten up to Captain D. Do you have a problem with that?
No, people do it all the time. So,
so give a little background. What I know of our guest speaker is that she's currently at Fort Polk, Louisiana with 3rd Brigade 10th Mountain. We have deployed together, not in the same area, but the same time frame, 2017. She was the Brigade physical therapist, and she's done a great job. So because of that, in my new job as a Army recruiter, I have invited Captain D to come down and talk about her job and what she does, to share it with all of you guys in the civilian world, to see if you maybe might be interested in this sort of job. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Captain D. Can you please tell us a little bit about your background, your MOS? How long have you been? What made you join the Army, and why this MOS?
Sure. So my name is Remedios Dondoyano. I actually enlisted in 2008 from San Antonio's recruiting station there. And I was initially a 68 Whiskey, which is a healthcare specialist, also known as a medic. And I had what was formerly an additional skill identifier at ASI, November 9, which is the physical therapy specialist. So since 2008, I was in the Army Reserves. I continued my education, had some really good mentors in the November 9 program. And by the way, that's now it's now an MOS, so the 68 Fox, still physical therapy specialist. And some really good mentors that told me to go to school because I kept asking them too many questions. So I completed my undergraduate degree at the University of the Incarnate Word in San Antonio, Texas, got my bachelor's in athletic training and rehabilitative sciences, minor in psychology, did the ROTC program at the St. Mary's University, also in San Antonio, on a scholarship, active duty scholarship. And then I applied for the U.S. Army Baylor University Doctor in Physical Therapy, or DPT program. Got in 2013, graduated that program in 2016. And then I was stationed at Fort Polk, initially at the Bain Jones Army Community Hospital, serving over there with the MEDAC, the Medical Activity Unit, and then transferred over to 3rd Brigade, 10th Mountain Division as the Brigade Physical Therapist. So a lot of Army training, been in for a little bit, had a little bit of time obviously on the enlisted side, but because of those really awesome mentors, both NCO and officers, especially the NCOs, they pushed me to be a physical therapist. And then outside of the physical therapy and military training, I had some experience as a CrossFit coach. So I was a CrossFit coach in San Antonio for a little bit. Did that, and also have a heavy interest in Olympic weightlifting. So I'm a USA advanced sports performance coach, which is a level 2, CrossFit level 2 trainer, a certified strength and conditioning specialist, or a CSCS, and also a certified athletic trainer. Just continued that on since my undergrad. Because all those different specialties and certifications and training, they actually are very, very applicable to my job as a brigade physical therapist, especially in the direction that the Army is going, which we will talk about later on, concerning the Army combat fitness tests, and just in general how the Army is seeing readiness in a physical way. So physical readiness.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have a list of questions pertaining towards the background that your background, which is physical therapist or therapy, okay, and then going into physical therapist. So our Q&A is mainly going to be around what you've done, even though I want to kind of talk about enlisted side, but again, this is you. So you are an officer. So again, I know you went from the enlisted to officer. So let's talk a little bit about how you transitioned, what made you transition, and why becoming an officer was your end goal per se to achieve the job that you're trying to do. So our Q&A will be based on those prospecting areas. Before you go into that part, we're going to do our Q&A first, and then any other questions devolved from those, we'll hit on those real quick and try to get in, because I know we have a very short time limit with you. Okay, so the first question from our viewers is, what is physical therapy, and what is a physical therapist? Why do we need them in the military?
All right, so physical therapy in and of itself, it's a field of medicine that uses evidence-based practice and means to basically treat injuries, diseases, or any sort of physical deformities, usually through physical means. A lot of the times we utilize exercise, we coach people through movements and specific skill techniques at times, and occasionally utilize physical modalities to treat, like I said, those injuries, certain diseases, certain deformities. And the end state for physical therapy is primarily improving somebody's function. So that's what physical therapy is as a field of medicine. A physical therapist is an expert in the neuromuscular topics. And we primarily utilize that skill or that knowledge base to provide physical treatment. Sometimes we do things like joint mobilizations, which is obviously moving a joint to some degree. We occasionally do some soft tissue manipulation or work, and that can be manual techniques, or it could be things like therapeutic dry needling. But a lot of the times, especially where I am right now, it's a lot of coaching. It's a lot of basically people skill type stuff. So teaching somebody how to move properly, or educating them on what their condition is, what it involves, what their pain is probably stemming from, or what pain is in general, because that's actually a very, very big body of research that's been happening. But sometimes it's not really fully understood, especially by a lot of people who are experiencing, which is basically everybody. But we very much are educators to enable people to not just understand what they're going through, but how are they going to be able to essentially treat themselves. So independent management of the symptoms, and as well as better understanding of why we're feeling pain and what that pain can be used for. Because a lot of times pain is very much an indicator, not just of something going wrong, but it's just our way of our bodies telling us or communicating with us. So if we have a better understanding of that, we know exactly what to do. And that's what physical therapists do. We utilize that knowledge base to that degree. And then we also include things like not just coaching through injuries that people are dealing with, or symptoms that people are dealing with, but we also promote injury prevention. So teaching people how to hopefully prevent injuries, what they can do now to mitigate those issues, and also to educate people on how they can just make themselves better overall. So whether or not injury prevention is a goal, at least getting better and just being better every day than the day before, that's what we assist in.
Wonderful. Okay, and then to carry on that
I actually
question.
can't hear you, Sergeant Anderson. I think your mic is on mute.
Mute? Okay. Can you hear me now?
Nope, still can't hear you.
What about now? Hear me? All right, we're having some technical difficulties. Stand by. What about now, ma'am?
Nope, still can't hear you.
Oh no. So I have the plug-in. Testing. Testing. Okay. Stand by. Staff Sergeant Green, can you hear me on Facebook? All right.
Still got a lag or it seems mute on the other end. All right. Oh.
Can you hear me? Nope.
Okay. I think I can hear you. Yep, I hear you now.
Yep. Whew. Okay. Real quick, if you're on my personal Facebook page to watch this stream, for you to hear Captain D's questions and answers, I need you guys to switch over to the Paso Robles Army recruiting page so you can actually hear interactions and see her. So because I'm in headsets, you can't hear what she's saying, and I apologize that. So I'm going to go ahead and shut you guys off. If you guys want to watch, please go over to the Paso Robles Army recruiting station page and enjoy this. You know, this is a lot of good information you guys are missing out by just listening to me talk. All right, catch you guys later. Sorry about that.
No worries.
All right, delete. All right, so since we got our technical difficulties out of the way, how is it a physical? Why do we need them in the military versus just sending all of our soldiers to the civilian sector to get worked on?
Okay. Yeah. So in the military, obviously we not only have military physical therapists working with the military, but we also have civilian physical therapists that do work with the military. Those individuals are usually at a military treatment facility or an MTF, or basically otherwise known as the hard standing hospital. So we have a specific population of civilian workers that do treat soldiers, but one of the reasons why we don't send our soldiers primarily to a civilian physical therapist is because our scope of practice is somewhat different. We sometimes offer a little bit more. We have to deal with in general for medicine, especially on the civilian side. We have to deal with the topic of insurance and how does that work, and insurance on the civilian side, if anyone's trying to get health insurance, pretty expensive. And you need to usually see several providers, like you need to see a doctor or a PA to even first be screened as to what's going on with you. And then in order to, in some states, to be seen by a specialist, and a specialist can be like me, a physical therapist, occupational therapist, speech therapist. Sometimes you really need a referral to those individuals. And in order to seek care for things like musculoskeletal issues, like bone, joint, muscle issues, usually the best course of action to treat those things is to treat it right away. But if you don't have somebody who may have that specialty, or a friend that knows just a thing or two about how to treat certain things like sprains or strains, then you're kind of, out of luck to some degree. Like you're just sitting there waiting. You don't even know if sitting there is the good thing or bad thing for your injury. So rapid care is essential to treating musculoskeletal injuries. And guess what? One of the biggest reasons why people in the military even go and seek medical treatment, it's usually because, despite us being a relatively young and generally healthy population, is because we're dealing with musculoskeletal stuff. The military is not kind to the body because we are expected to go out there and basically fight, and some of us to different degrees of battle, but we are expected to deploy, and deployment environments is not friendly to the body, and it's one of the sacrifices that we assume as a service member. So to treat that common issue that is the reason for a lot of medical visits in the military, having some sort of in-house medical provider that treats that kind of stuff, aka a physical therapist, is a reason why we have a physical therapist. It helps to save money for the military to some degree. And like I said before, how we treat, it's sometimes different because we don't necessarily worry 100% about, okay, these treatments cost this much, so we sometimes can, we're gonna do these things because insurance requires us to do so. Although we still have to worry to some degree about the rationale for why we do what we do as a military physical therapist. We still practice, like I said before, evidence-based practice. We utilize modalities and treatment techniques based on not just current research, but modalities and treatment techniques that actually work. We are more focused on the soldier versus what does insurance tell us to do and how to document.
Yes.
We do have to document. Yes.
And exactly what we're going through, because you yourself is a soldier in the military. So, I mean, what best person to know of our body and what we've gone through is somebody who's been through it. So I agree.
Precisely. Yep. Yep. That is the other biggest thing, is I was about to mention that
Sorry.
too, is that we have, no, that's okay. That's perfect. We have to live the Army life. We have to be a soldier. And if you're an officer, be an officer, or if you're an NCO, non-commissioned officer, be that NCO. In other words, a leader. In order to better understand your soldiers and people that you lead, it's better to live that life with them and go through the suck, as they say, with them. And so to me, as a physical therapist, just personally at least, I like to do the training. I like to be out in the field and essentially get my boots dirty and get out of the clinic, because I can better understand what my soldiers go through, what kind of physical demands they have to undergo, and then I can better speak to them on their level, how to treat what they need to treat, and how to manipulate their environment to positively affect their bodies. Because like I said before, the military is not kind to the body, especially to the joints, the muscles, and the back, the knees. So how do we, despite all those that we can't change, what are some things that we can change? And that's where I come into play, kind of as a coach.
Yeah, very, very important role, because again, a doctor could do so much, but it's really what you do to help educate us and keep our body in the tip-top shape we can be and work through those pains and those body aches and stuff. Show us what the right way is. And you do a lot more hands-on, one-on-one where in time than a actual MD would do. All right, so let's talk about how long is your schooling going to be for you to get, this is for you in general. And then if you want to talk about the job, because you have different, you said something about the difference between a tech and being licensed. I think that might be further on, but if there's different in timing of school in the fellowship program, can you just briefly talk about that?
Sure. So just real quick, I'll start from my background. I mentioned before that I got my physical therapy degree through the U.S. Army Baylor University program. So the DPT program there, if you just Google U.S. Army Baylor University DPT, you'll definitely get there. There's a lot of information from that website. But I went through that program after an application process, and I completed the program. Very, very good program. It's about 30 months. At the end of that program, there's a year-long, toward the end of that program, there's a year-long, essentially internship period, which is great because it gets your feet definitely wet in the shoes of a staff physical therapist before you're out there almost independently working as a licensed physical therapist. So 30-month program. There are different physical therapy programs out there. Not all military physical therapists go through the Army Baylor DPT program. Some are direct commissionees, meaning they got their degree as a civilian and however way they did that. And then they went to an Army recruiter, usually a regional AMED healthcare recruiter. And then that recruiter helps them get commissioned into the Army. So whatever other PT program is out there, there's some ones that are slightly different in the way their curriculum works compared to Baylor's. But I think for the most part, most programs are generally about the same. The prerequisites are generally very similar. Obviously, go to that school's website and look for the prerequisites that they require. Obviously, you have to take your GRE. But for me, in my experience, after having gone through undergrad, which is generally an average of 4 years, and then the PT program at Baylor, which is a 30-month program, so almost 3 years, you're looking at total education of about 7 years from undergrad to graduate degree to completing your graduate degree.
So what made you, I know I'm going a little bit off subject, but what made you go this route versus an MD? Because I mean, it seems like the time and length is almost the same.
So a medical doctor, they definitely have to go through the whole body of obviously of medicine, and then sometimes you can actually from that route. Obviously, I'm not an MD, but in my research, it to me from what I understand is you can also go down certain specialties similar with physical therapy. We are obviously more focused on the neuromusculoskeletal system. So as I said, or as you can hear in that implication, we're talking about neurology. So some level of understanding their nervous system, nerves, and then the muscles, and then skeleton, and then movement in general. We are more focused on that. So real quick history of physical therapy. We started out not as a doctorate level program. It eventually went from a bachelor's to master's level, and then in the past like 5-10 years it became a doctorate level program. So we have to know a lot of things about the neuromusculoskeletal systems, and then the reason why I went down that route is because I think at this point it's probably more like 17 years ago. I don't look like I'm very old, but sometimes I feel like it. But when I first joined the military, I was really discerning. What did I want to do? I wanted to help people. I wanted to help people in the best way possible. So if that meant I became a medic or some sort of medical provider, an EMT even, I was going to try and go down that route. But I was inspired by watching other providers who happen to be physical therapists take care of my grandmothers. And I saw that they were involved in topics that I was really interested in. So I like exercise. I like exercise science. I'm very interested in the muscular and skeletal anatomy for some reason. And so when I discovered physical therapy, I was like, this is exactly what I kind of want to do. Why not go down that route? And I just nothing else ever seemed to deter me. So I just continued going down that route. And so that's why I decided to become a physical therapist. And additionally, I really like the fact that because we're so evidence-based in what we do, I better understand reasons why we do things like, why do we foam roll? How do we foam roll? What's a way of foam rolling? When's foam rolling not appropriate? Simple things like that. I had those type of questions as like E3, E4. And again, my NCOs were like, you should just go to school. Stop asking me questions. Go research yourself. So I did, and here I am.
Wow, that is incredible. I mean, I could talk just about that a lot more, but I want to get back to our more Q&A, some more questions that our audience have put up on Facebook. Again, I could pick your brain for hours, and I know we're on a tight timeline budget here. So real quick, somebody asked, does PTs do not have to get malpractice insurance?
At this time, no. Military physical therapists.
I'd skip your answers. No, I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah, no worries.
Physical therapists have to get malpractice insurance. If so, how does it compare to the civilian world versus military? I said your line. I'm so sorry.
No worries. No worries. Yeah, obviously, no, they don't have to. They're not required to obtain malpractice insurance at this time.
Okay. Is it something through the Army where, you know, us as soldiers, we can't do anything? We have to go through a chain of command, or why is it that the civilians have to and the military doesn't? Do you know anything about that nature? Might be going a little bit out of our scope.
It kind of is going a little bit. I honestly admit I don't know 100% as to completely why. Although there's been some recent news that have been investigating, you know, the need for malpractice accountability. Essentially, we are still held very much accountable. We have to go through a credentialing process with our local military treatment facility or hospitals, and so we definitely go through very vigorous training in the skills and what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to evaluate and treat. So right now, just like for most other medical providers, there's no actual malpractice insurance that we have to get. There are some protective mechanisms in place that the military healthcare providers are under, but mostly because we're obviously all focused on the safety of the soldiers and occasionally the other military beneficiaries like dependents and retirees. We treat those guys as well.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. That is incredible.
Some places do. Depends on how many physical therapists you have.
Does Fort Polk does that? I mean, can
right
you do
now,
that?
Me personally, no, because I'm one physical therapist for an entire brigade, and a brigade is usually about the size of 4,300 people. And it's just a lot of stress on the system in general, the medical system in general, to see everybody. So I only see just the active duty population.
Okay, but if we had more, we could open up our. Okay, wow, yes. That's incredible. I did not know that. That's pretty neat. All right, another question was, as a physical therapy, where can we go in the military? Am I stuck in a hospital setting, in a clinic, or what other places can I go?
Like a lot of answers of what am I going to do or where I'm going to be, it's all up to the Army. So if you have not heard this yet, you will hear it's needs of the Army. But we all understand that when we sign our names on the dotted line. For the physical therapist, usually we are in a hospital setting or a clinical setting. As you can see, I'm actually in my office right now, in my small little desk area, but we are not always found in a clinic. Occasionally, we are found in a gym. More recently, physical therapists are placing themselves in a gym setting because the military population is largely, if you can think about it, kind of sport related. There's been the term soldier athlete that's been around for a while because of the nature of how we have to operate as soldiers. If you think about us kind of like athletes, where we have to stay physically fit.
Yep.
We have to do these special skills. We have to do the PT test, the APFT, or now the ACFT. And then we have to train, we have to recover, we have to take care of our bodies, we have to eat right, sleep well. We do all those things similarly to an athlete, but we're slightly different in that at some point we're going to probably have to get deployed, and athletes don't have to worry about being shot at. So, but soldiers have to, consider that. And then as a healthcare provider, you have to consider being out there enough to help those soldiers out. and if need be, pick up that weapon and fire back. But right now, in this day and age, at this current point in time, we are sometimes found in gyms because we want to be able to help our soldiers out in that functionally fit mind. The Army is now coming out with, has been coming out and developing this concept called H2F, which is the Holistic Health and Fitness concept. That, if you think about the words holistic, we're talking about different things. We're talking about health and fitness interconnecting together. They're both highly related, and all aspects of those two things or topics are interrelated. And then we're talking about health being usually free of injury, usually free of pain or some sort of condition or disease. And then fitness. Fitness, usually you could use that term to define things like how well are you able to do your job? Are you fit enough and capable enough to do your MOS as an infantryman or as a 68 Fox, a physical therapy specialist, or a 68 Whiskey healthcare specialist? So thinking about the soldier as in a holistic approach, both in body, in mind, and to some degree even spiritually, and then sleep, and then thinking about our stress levels, how those things interact with our health and our mindset. That's what that H2F concept is really driving at. And so, like I said, if we're in a gym, part of that is the fitness. So a lot of our soldiers are in the gym trying to get better and trying to improve their functional fitness. And so if they're there mostly, then the physical therapist should be, or usually should be, very knowledgeable on movements, skilled movements in lifting or in exercise. And that's the best place to go and educate people as well as treat them. So if they're having pain with back squats, why am I going to go see them in a pristine clinic without a set of, a rack and a set of barbell and plates, which you can't see, but it's behind me. So I have that. And then not only are they in gyms nowadays, depending on your installation, they're also seen in other places. Some of them can be in a command slot as a commander for a functional training company, which are usually found right now in basic training units. Basic combat training units. And then occasionally there's sometimes doing more administrative type work, serving as an executive officer or some sort of leader at the Medical Center of Excellence in San Antonio. So there's stuff like that. So we are found in a lot of places now because of the skill sets that we bring and the knowledge and the specific knowledge that we bring. We're found in a lot of places. So.
And again, that one-on-one time where you're actually sitting there watching us do the technique and the move, it is so critical for your knowledge base to watch us, because I mean, just like me, and I'm sure a lot of my other friends, we're in there and be like, this is how you do this technique. And maybe we're not focusing on keeping our elbows in or our back straight, where you have a key eye, you've been trained, and you know the techniques. So you are doing multiple things. You're teaching us how to do it right, you're preventing injuries, and you're teaching us how to do it next time properly. And that spreads between, because I mean, if you go to any gym in any morning of any installation, you're going to have thousands of soldiers working out, and somebody might not be more knowledgeable and be like, hey man, this is what I do and it works for me, and that might be totally the wrong thing. So to have somebody like you and your specialty there could teach a group of people at once is also beneficial versus one doctor for 20 minutes and doesn't know the background that you have. So that is spectacular.
Absolutely.
All right, another question is, once you've done, this is more personal for you, once you're done your time in service and looking to transition into the civilian practice, how different or how difficult would it be? So you're done your 20 years or 20 plus, depending on your rank that you achieved. And if somebody wanted to have the military to pay for their schooling to get where you're at, and then say, okay, I'm not doing my 20 years. I just want to get my credential paid for, my school paid for, and I want to get out. How easy or how difficult will that be? And what will my constraints be?
Well, I'm not at my 20 years yet, but I think I'm going to end up doing 20 anyway. But my plan right now, and especially with a lot of the research that I've been doing, just looking ahead, as good and proper career planning should be done, I think that depending on where you want to go to work, who you want to work for, and in what capacity you want to work, it depends on those things that determine how easy it may be for you to get a job. Because there's a lot of places that are doing that are hiring for staff physical therapists. Just instead of you being in a managerial position, you're probably going to be just one of the other staff therapists, civilian staff therapists that someone will see, or there's things like working with nursing homes or working with specific orthopedic groups where you have essentially a team and you're one of the spokes on a wheel of this holistic healthcare for an individual. You could also be working at a gym or even working in places that involve wound care or inpatient. So it all depends on what you want to do. You almost have so much, you have a lot of credentialing when you finish. You have a lot of experience. Your resume is pretty robust. You have a lot of really reputable skills and marketable skills basically by the time you finish a 20-year degree, because at that point you've got some managerial experience as well. And so you make it what it is. But if you were, say, to get out in less than 20 years, you still have that degree, you still have some certifications, especially if you worked your time management well and you kept up on continuing education and you tried to gain additional certifications while you were in. Those things can also help boost your ability to be a likely candidate for hire once you get out. And then there's also some new things in physical therapy where people are doing more what's called cash-based physical therapy, where instead of having insurance being the thing that help people pay for things, it's like as if you were to go, like say for instance you went to go see a lawyer. You don't have lawyer or legal insurance, at least from what I understand. Most people don't have legal insurance, so when they go see a lawyer they have to pay out of pocket to that lawyer. Same thing, physical therapists can also do the cash-based thing. That's a whole other topic. A lot of people are looking into that, but that's another option in order to have some sort of a job or income after the active duty military.
Oh, that's new. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah,
that's great. Another question. This one is from a physical therapist that comment. In physical therapy, can you do wound care? I know you just mentioned that, but can you talk about that?
Yes, you can do wound care, but it depends on which hospital or MTF you're at and if you are credentialed to do wound care. Some hospitals or some locations, such as the Institute of Surgical Research, for instance, I did a short internship as well as some observation at the ISR at the San Antonio region, or San Antonio Military Medical Center, SAMC, down at San Antonio. And at the ISR, they do wound care because they treat burn patients. It's the burn center is another name that people call it, but they do wound care. And I'm pretty sure at Walter Reed, they also do wound care there as well, just because in our past, we had a lot of soldiers that came back with a lot of burn injuries, sometimes amputations, and a lot of dermatological issues. So yes, we are involved with some level of wound care, but of course it all depends on where you're at. Where I'm at right now, I'm not really involved in wound care, just because the nature of my job right now, it's more fast paced. I've just got to see people who have just gotten an injury or just recently experienced some issues and then try to get them back into the fight, so to speak. That way we can keep our readiness as a pretty deployable unit, a highly or frequently deployable unit, a FORSCOM unit. And that's what my job is right now. But yes, you can be involved with wound care.
That's so interesting, but it makes sense. I never thought about that until the comment came about that, let's say I had an injury and I also have a wound. For me to work through my injuries, you should be able to also repair or change whatever issue from that injury while continuing the care. So I don't know why I never put two and two together, but that is very interesting. And that's really cool.
Yes, because sometimes certain wounds, like you said, can affect the way that you can tolerate therapy or what you need to do in therapy. So just as a medical provider in general, understanding how to treat certain wounds. And then luckily, I'm also next door to the aid station where we've got the PAs, a doc, and medics. And so, if I never needed any help with treating stuff or getting equipment, I just go next door and I talk to the PAs. It's easy enough in the military medical system where we're a team already, so you already have that medical team. So just communicating with them and working interchangeably with the PAs and the medics to help with a mutual patient. That's generally the way to go if we have any sort of wound concerns in the physical therapy setting.
Man, a lot of perks being a soldier.
Yep.
All right. All right. So real quick touch bases on what is the procedures of taking the state board or
So
the board
once
license, not state board. What am I saying?
Yes.
Sorry.
So in order to have the initials PT after your name as a licensed physical therapist, after you complete the A doctorate program, once you graduate, you're eligible to take the exam. There is a website that you have to go to, and we could probably, if you got an ability to maybe post some links.
Yeah, I'm
at
going to
the end
leave
of the
a lot
show.
of this the H2F,
Okay.
your universities that you've gone to.
Okay.
I'm going to
Yes.
make all that blue.
Yes, you do have to. I'm trying to actually look for the link right here. Federation. Yes, I would refer folks to the Federation of State Boards of Physical Therapy website, or the FSBPT. That gives you all the details of what is involved with getting the sitting for the licensure exam. And so like I said, once you are a graduate, you get your degree, you're eligible to go and sign for it, follow the that website's instructions, and then from there you go and schedule to take an exam. It's probably very similar to how people were trying to take their GRE. If anyone's familiar with that, you got to go sign up for it, pay for it on something like Prometric or whatever, go and take it, and then you get your results sometime afterwards. It takes about a few months for the results to come out. So there's a little bit of a waiting period. Kind of people are nervously, biting their fingers, taking their exam. That's a pretty lengthy exam. You have to have some level of perseverance and stamina to sit at a computer screen and click through things. But basically that exam covers almost everything and anything that you completely learn in physical therapy school. So
intense. All right, and that's going to be a follow-on into this question. How many continuing educations do you need to keep your license, and how much will that will cost, and who pays for that, the military or yourself?
So a lot of the things that we need to do to make ourselves better clinicians and better educated, or to maintain our continuing education, and a lot of it does come out of pocket. We are paid as officers, so there's a little bit of that compensation just through being a commissioned officer. But there are ways that you could possibly get some things paid for. It depends on each unit that you're with and who you talk to. Primarily, if you basically if you're in a hospital, if you talk to your OIC, your officer in charge, or whoever's rating you, whoever's essentially your boss, ask them and just see what they say, because they may have resources or point of contacts that you can start to talk to from there. In other units, you usually can talk to the school's NCO, or someone in what's called the S3 shop, or someone involved with training and operations. And usually that training related leader, NCO, or officer, they can point you in the right direction of how you could possibly consider making a trip to go someplace to go get a certification or further education as a TDY, temporary duty, or a way to somehow get it reimbursed at some point. And that process changes in a lot of places from my experience. Some things were reimbursed. Some things for me, I just, I bit the bullet and paid out of pocket, but I just report that on my taxes, because I track everything that I've had to spend on for my education and for my profession. And that's just basic budgeting, I would say, is what's required. So the cost, that also varies. And it also, I think the CEUs may depend on the state that you're licensed. I'm licensed in Texas, and so I have to maintain 30 CEUs in each reporting period.
Okay, interesting. All right, so this is going to be, I think, our final question for the physical therapists, and then we're going to have, maybe not, but I'll just real quick ask this one. If I wanted to go this route as an enlisted officer, what are some of the things I could do now as a civilian to get into this type of job field?
Okay, so I would say know what you really want to do. So I said the word discernment before, and it took me a while to consider, like, what did I want to do? So really know what you want to do. Do your research, ask people questions. So obviously we have this Q&A and I'm answering things from my perspective and my
Yes.
unique background, but go talk to a military physical therapist and just ask them straight up, what do you like about the job? What do you don't like about the job? What do you wish you would have known before you joined, or what do you wish you would have done before you joined? Just be straight up honest. And also be straight up honest with yourself. That's the first thing for any question about, what should I do to prepare myself? And then once you've decided, okay, I really want to pursue this physical therapy route, go and actually do observation. If you are looking into physical therapy as a say an officer and you want to go into a program and you're not yet a licensed PT, you're going to need to do observation hours. So use your time wisely. If you're going to do observation hours and you need to observe to better understand what you're getting yourself into, go and find a military physical therapist or find any other physical therapist. And then also ask those physical therapists, what are some other places and what are other jobs of PTs? And when they say, oh, we do wound care, we work in a hospital, we work in with an inpatient, or we work in other specialty clinics, go find those clinics and go put yourself in there and go observe. Get those clinical hours too, so that you can see what people's backgrounds are and what they did. What I did was I asked therapists, what should I do? What's your background? What degree did you get? And that's what actually led me to athletic training, majoring in athletic training and rehabilitative sciences. And then if you further decide, okay, I really want to pursue this, what degree should I get? My recommendations are look at degrees that are very applicable to the physical therapy field. A lot of physical medics and physical stuff. So exercise science, kinesiology, athletic training. You can do stuff in biology to some degree. Those are very heavy sciencey courses. But also think about electives. Take electives in sports education or physical education. Anything related to physical medicine. And then some other notes I wanted to say was other things that you could all be doing now is if you're already interested in exercise and say you are a personal trainer or you're a CrossFit coach or you're just someone who's highly interested in sports in general. Military PTs right now, because with where the Army's going, we are heavily leaning toward more sports medicine type stuff, even though we don't just do sports medicine. That's more common. So you might as well get yourself involved with sports medicine situations. So if you're a CrossFit coach, utilize that opportunity, or a personal trainer, utilize that opportunity to learn how to talk to people, how to talk to patients, how to coach, how to train, understanding what is a learning style, what's a speaking style, and what are different styles, and then really hone your skills on that too. Because yes, you go to PT school, you're worried about the clinical education, you're worried about the hard sciences, memorizing very, very minute details about, what's the gracilis innervated by. All those things, you're going to learn those in PT school. But some of the things that you can do before you even get there are a lot of the people skills, a lot of the communicative skills that you need to be able to be a one-on-one type of person, because you're going to be dealing with that a lot in your job.
Very true. You have to have communication to understand what the problem is and how to treat or attack that issue.
Yep.
All right. Yep. So now we're turning over into if we have time. So we're going to do a time check.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the part of the segment that we're going to kind of turn into if a civilian or an applicant that is looking into the military and they want to work on their physical fitness, what can they do now to achieve that?
Well, I will say that Google is a great resource.
I
agree. So if you first figure out what does the Army need you to do, and of course your local recruiter is going to tell you, hey, we're expected to pass this APFT or some sort of physical fitness test. What's the physical fitness test consist of? One of the things that people usually need to work on or have issues with or usually ask questions about is definitely obviously running. Running in the Army is, I think, largely very cultural, but also we do it a lot, and it's one of the ways that we get in our cardiovascular training. But knowing what do you need to work on. So in general, whether or not you do even join the Army, but definitely if you decide to join, know what you need to work on. And then if you need to work on just general physical fitness, like I said before, Google's a great resource. Google something to the effect of basic training prep program or Army or military prep program, because the biggest thing, and from a physical therapy point of view and a coach point of view, the biggest thing that helps people be successful in anything is literally you just stick to it. Pick a program, stick to that program, stick to the program for at least 30 days or so. And then don't wait to start this program 30 days prior for you shipping off to basic training. Start yesterday, start now. And then, like I said, if you just stick to something and stay consistent and have a sense of perseverance, that process of you not just sticking to it, but learning how to persevere, learning about your body, taking care of yourself, you know, the stretching and mobility that you should probably do every day or as much as you can. If you keep up with that kind of stuff, that transfers into the military, into the Army in general, so that you are better prepared for basic training or any other physical tests the Army throws at you. And then you still utilize those same skills once you're in the military. You have to be perseverant. You have to stick to things, have discipline, wake up super early and go to PT in the morning and stuff like that. So those are the things that you can start doing now to help yourself be physically prepared. I don't have specific things because there's nothing specific. It all, the great answer is it all depends on you, and it all depends.
And everybody individual is different. Like I suck at running, so running for me is harder, and I have more quote unquote other injuries to stem from that, because I'll get into, okay, I'm going to tackle this 5 mile run when I haven't been doing 5 months. So I'm creating injuries on myself for not doing the appropriate training. So I agree with that. A question is, what type of struggles do you see soldiers that are currently going through?
So this is a very interesting question, because it's not necessarily like I could say running, but it's more than just running. For me, from what I see, it's just the ability to handle normal Army life. And by that, I mean, what's normal? Well, we do have to run a lot, just because it's the culture and the nature of a lot of our programs. And obviously with a situation right now, we don't have access to a lot of gyms. So what are people going to do? They're going to probably try to run and maybe run more, because that's all they know to do. So running is one of the things that we do in normal Army life, and on average. Things like lifting a lot, lifting boxes, heavy containers, being in prolonged positions like standing or sitting in a vehicle. You don't think those things are issues, but until you're actually in a convoy for a good 4 or 5 hours, and you're like, oh, my back and my knees are killing me, or my helmet's giving me a headache. And those are the things that most of the time right now, because we're in a garrison environment where obviously it's not combative, so not a lot of really bad acute, big injuries, but it's a lot of chronic overuse stuff, and that's from just obviously normal Army life. We can't change that, unfortunately. That's a factor that's environmental and external to us, but we can treat preventable stuff, and those are the struggles that people are having right now, is that they just don't know how to treat those, how to deal with it. And that's obviously where I come into play, is to help educate folks on that. So one of the first things I think people should work on is definitely that mindset. It's going back to the fitness that I talked about before, in preparation for basic training in the Army in general. So those are my thoughts on the struggle that people are having more commonly.
All right. Okay. So with so many different types of platforms available, how do we narrow down what is right to do, and how do we follow a program that works for us to achieve what is needed physically fit soldiers, civilians to transfer into the progressive Army?
Yes, definitely. Great question. It's not a specific there's not a specific answer to this one. Like I mentioned before, we are trying to develop further through all the ranks this H2F mindset, this holistic health and fitness mindset. And like I said before, I described it, I kind of defined it, and some people may think that it's kind of like a hippie mindset. What are you talking about, hippie? You do yoga all the time or whatever? Actually, yoga might be okay for some people. Stress management, mobility, don't just the yoga. But
hey, that's hard. That's some of those positions are really hard.
Yes, and there's some like hot yoga. People have done that kind of stuff.
Oh
Bikram
no.
yoga. Mm-mm. No, you want to be tough? Yeah, go do that. But yeah, so different workouts. I completely understand. There's so many out there, and honestly, sometimes you just have to try them. There's no, I would say there's almost no specific workout that's the best. You just have to try it out and do it and see what works best for you. Because like I said, I come from a CrossFit type background, so I would say, hey, CrossFit's awesome, but not
Oh, yeah.
everybody
Awesome.
not everybody's experienced with CrossFit or even has as any CrossFit coaches near their location, so they may not think CrossFit's great for them. But if they do something like at home, whether it's P90X or anything jazzercise, I'm not even gonna dish jazzercise. If you do that, hey, more power to you. You're keeping up activity. That's all I care about. But you do want to follow a program and you want to stick to that program. What you do want to add probably to the program, if it's not already built in, is understanding what's good recovery, what's proper, what kind of mobility or stretching drills should you do. So add those in. Recovery is just as important, or even sometimes more important than the training that you are doing. So kind of going back to the common issues that we're having, other than overuse, it's the ramping up way too quickly, way too fast, way too soon.
Guilty.
And yeah, oh, I honestly am the same way too. That's why I became a physical therapist. How do I treat all these aches and pains? But once you train more and you look up things like, how do I better recover? What is a good program for recovering from this or that? Or, I had some resources for my soldiers of how do we deal with some common aches and pains for the knee, shins, lower back. A lot of it is just, understanding how to recover, when to recover, and what to do after your exercises or your training. So just to summarize for that question, stick with a program, one, and don't forget to add in some level of recovery and mobility or recovery drills afterwards. And always get your rest. Eat well, obviously, and sleep. Get a lot of sleep, because sleep's very important for the body to be able to recover from a great workout and be able to have all the necessary internal things you need to be able to push yourself for the next day's workout.
Would I be out of line to say, if you're trying to be an athlete or somebody who's really high in physical fitness, to stay away from the sugary drinks, stay away from the Monsters, stay away from the Red Bull, stay away from the Bangs, because that would just ruin our recovery time frame?
I think that if you, as I know you're an NCO, like if you share that knowledge base with your soldiers, at least that's getting them to consider, hey, why am I drinking these things? Why am I taking energy drinks? I wouldn't say that you're out of line saying that. I think that is coming from a good place. I will say though that how soldiers are, even just some other younger people, they're gonna do what they want to do. Hey, go and do it. But I will say, yes, sometimes drinking those things are going to affect your recovery, and it's going to affect your performance the next day. And some folks are like, wait a minute, I take 3 Monsters before my APFD and I always score well. Well, if you are super young and you recover well and you don't think, like, if you drink a lot and then you do like a freaking 2-mile run the next day and you're like sub 13 minutes, the truth of the body and of that age is that you will naturally recover well because you're young and robust. You're gifted. And then once you reach your mid-20s to 30s, the body starts talking to you. It starts slowing down to some degree, and you just can't deal with that stuff. So make good habits now. Minimize the use of those things. Occasionally, you feel like you need to use it because you pulled an all-nighter studying, and then you had a PT test or whatever the next day. Okay, I see why people try to use those things, but minimizing those things and leaning more toward healthier options, holistic options in terms of food, staying hydrated in the right way, water, electrolytes, and stuff like that. Making more healthier decisions now, when you have almost no issues, if you're a younger person, will translate into your later life where you will start to feel certain things and you just can't do anything about it. It's just the normal course of humanity and our human nature in our body. So
great point.
Great
point. Okay, so this is a question for me. What keeps you motivated continuing to work out after the morning PT? Because you're a very physical fit person, your backgrounds in PT and the muscle of your body. What keeps you motivated? Because I'm pretty sure that, like me, there's certain days that are like, well, I don't know what to work on. I've done this, and I'm just either I'm bored or I don't have the equipment because I'm TDY somewhere. But what
Yep.
keeps your drive so intense to keep this going as a passion?
That's a great question. Kind of going back to that consistency thing is, in order to make a change, you have to gradually make those smaller changes, and those build up over time. So for me, the smaller changes come through usually some sort of structured program. Personally, I need some sort of like already preset, planned out thing for at least 2 weeks, a month or so. I actually still have a coach for things like my Olympic weightlifting. I have somebody else tell me what to do, just because it's always good to still be a student. By the way, you can't be a good teacher if you haven't been a good student first. Same with being a good leader. You can't be a good leader if you haven't been a good follower first. So having a coach or someone that can keep you accountable is very, very helpful. Even if it's just, like a partner or a friend or accountability buddy, as sometimes people call it. That's helpful. Having that structure, like I said, some sort of program, 30-day program or something like that. That's a good thing to start with. And then personally, I have always felt, even when I was enlisted, was that my physical fitness is very key to my job. I need to work out, not because I just want to, even though I like to do it for my sanity. I need to work out. I need to stay healthy because I am a leader. I'm an officer now, but I'm a leader and just by my example. So I need to, and by the way, I'm not the greatest at running either. It doesn't always feel good for me. So I got a treadmill and I've been working on that, as well as, you used to know about honor field from over here, and I would run honor field, and I wanted to get better because I need to be that example. And when in that process of working on my things that I suck at, it's also that experience that you could share with soldiers to say, I know what you feel like. I know how running hurts. This is what you should probably try to do now to take care of your body so that you can get to the point kind of like where I've gotten. And so living that life and having those same struggles, that's what keeps me going with working out on my own. As a clinician, as a physical therapist, I'm not always required to go to morning PT like everybody else, but I do shadow around to different units, and I wake up with them and I go and train with them because I want to know, what do these guys have to go through, not just with the waking up early, but what kind of workouts are they doing with the equipment that they have, or what is their unit focused on. And so I do that kind of shadowing thing on my own. But outside of that, I still want to work on my sucks and my running. I love weightlifting. I want to still stay strong. I'm a short statured person. So strong, even though strength is my fun thing, it's still not something I'm actually really good at because I have to work on it. So and also in general, I just don't like to suck. I want to be good enough to be able to, if I had to hold somebody, carry a weapon, and then drag someone on a litter, I want to be able to be functionally fit to do that. And I think about that as a personal responsibility too. So that's the other reason why it keeps me going.
Too. Are you competing? Any
right
events?
Now? No, right now, no, I'm not competing. I'm actually scheduled to PCS very soon. So that's not happening anytime soon, but also, thank you. But no, I'm not competing right now. I just haven't signed up for any Olympic weightlifting meets. I decided to dial it down and actually work on some very small, minute things with my weightlifting. So, even though I had been competitive even on a national stage, they say that those elite athletes really work on that, improving the 1%. 1% means technique work or conditioning, and I'm working on the technique work. So that's what I'm actually focused on right now. So competitively, I'm competitive in my heart, but I'm not competing on any stages at this moment.
Okay, and I do, if I remember correctly, you do clinics in the afternoon sometimes. Now I know you have a staff, right, that does it when you're not there.
Well, I right now have not had a 68 Fox, a physical therapy specialist, NCOIC, for the longest time. But instead, what I've been doing was training medics. And I currently have one that is serving as my acting NCOIC. I man my clinic, and I see my patients. I don't really have anybody else seeing them if they're in my clinic. So I have to take legal and clinical responsibility over that. So I do have clinical hours and I do see patients. And then outside of that, I hold workshops and I teach classes throughout the brigade, depending on what the needs are for the specific units.
And again, I just want to recap, Captain D, she oversees about 4,500 soldiers within the brigade. So she's responsible for the maintaining of health and mobile for these individuals. And then that number is constantly in flux because we have people moving and coming in. So that's pretty tremendous when you compare it to what you do, compared to out in, the public settings, so
Yes.
you have to be on top of your game.
Yes.
So this concludes our Q&A. I appreciate you to take an hour out of your time to help us with this. There's a lot of questions. I will answer them with Captain D to make sure that we get to you, and I will put down all the links that we've talked about. So if you want to pursue this on your own, you could be well informed. So about later on today, I'll add those links to this post. Please share it with your friends. Captain D, what website or link or social media platform do you want these people to come and visit and see what you're about on your page? Do you have a site for them to visit?
Yes, I want to direct them to Facebook first. If they just put in facebook.com/PatriotPT, or if they Google or if they search in Facebook Patriot Brigade Physical Therapy, they'll see that link to my Facebook page. And then I have a lot of educational topics that I discuss, as well as links that I share, and certain things like handouts and educational materials that I also share with links on that page as well. So if they go and check that out, that's a good place for them to start.
Okay, wonderful. Again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it immensely. Hopefully after you get settled in with your new duty station, we could do this again. It's a very hot topic. Everybody wants to talk to you. So again, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Not a problem, Sergeant. Not a problem, Sergeant Anderson. You have a good one.
You too. Bye, Captain D.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Just like I said, I will post all the links below. It might take me a half a day to research and get those proper links because I want to vet them first so that I know I'm not sending you a bad link. And then if you have any other questions, leave that below on this Facebook and we'll try to answer them at a later time, not too far in advance, but we'll do that. And if you have any other topics or any other people in their jobs that you want to see or hear about, leave that comment below and we'll try to schedule another Q&A with those people. So that concludes our segment today. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time. Bye.